excited to be here. Hello, everybody from mainly SF, it looks like, or the Bay Area and some
Mhm.
beyond. Well,
Yeah,
I'm actually dialing in from Seoul, South Korea this morning, Friday morning.
thank you. Wow. I didn't realize that when we scheduled this talk.
All good, I'm used to it.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. It's really,
Yeah.
really great. It's wonderful. So wonderful to have you here. So let's dive into it. So K-drama or Korean drama, right? So it has exploded in popularity in recent years, and for very good reasons. They are known for their high production value, attractive characters. Personally, I really like their catchy soundtracks. And all
Mhm.
those cultural elements that people love, food, language, the particular sense of humor, and tradition. But for you, there's just so much more than entertainment. Now you're a
Yeah.
therapist, you're author, coach, educator, and entrepreneur. And you travel the world just giving talks and workshops about how K-dramas connect to mental health. But it was not always like this. In fact, as a second generation Korean American, you were initially quite defensive about your Korean heritage, and
Mhm.
you didn't watch your first K-drama until you were 18 years old.
Mhm.
So tell us, what was your experience growing up, and how did K-drama become such a big part of your life?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for the summary. I'm like, oh, she summarized it very well. I love that you said defensive about my Korean culture. That's actually a very nice way of putting it. For a while, I put hated, disliked. And so I'm sharing that now in my older age, where it's taken decades of growth through, I want to say, self-discovery via K-dramas, which is why I titled it How K-dramas Can Transform. They transformed me, which I believe today, which is why they resonate not just globally, but through my own personal development and growth and changing and transformation. I'm able to be very authentic what it's done in my life. And age 18, yes, now growing up as a child who wants to fit in, right? You're grew up in white suburbia, very I love my now I think back, great upbringing, but when you feel like you're the lone Asian, and then the questions, and I say this in my TED talk, I kind of acted out where I'm like, hey, people are like, hey, Jeannie, so like, are you from China? Are you from Japan? And then there's no choice of Korea. So you're waiting for it going, huh, no. And then as a child, you don't want to stand out. You want to be like everybody else. So I had to explain that Korea was even a country. And then I had to be very clear that it wasn't North Korea, right? So you're sitting there educating as a 10, 11, 12-year-old, and you're just like, this sucks. Why can't I just be American, right? Why can't I just be from the USA? So that dislike and that defensiveness of having to even indicate where I'm from it can be very difficult, especially as a child. And then as a teenager, you're just full of teenage angst. So you're sitting there going, you hate on everybody, right? You guys know what that is like, right? So parents and your friends, and then all of a sudden the culture, you have parents who are traditionally Korean, I would say highly educated, but still they left Korea in 1974. So they remember Korea in 1974. So back in the 70s, you're sitting there going, okay, so it's 1980 something or 1990, and I'm American. Parents, help me. And so there was a huge cultural clash even within my home. So you can imagine, I just did not want to be who I am. And so 18, I flew to Korea, and I went every summer. So we were very exposed, my sister and I, to the Korean culture growing up. And then when I was 18, I was sent to Yonsei University's summer program, which, by the way, to this day, I highly endorse. But it was a bunch of Korean Americans from all over the US, and we're experiencing South Korea together. And I saw my first K-drama called Jealousy, Chiltu in Korean, on a screen, on an actual TV screen in the dorm. And I just remember going, wait, what's this? And we're all like, yeah, I think it's like the latest trending K-drama. And that changed my life because I saw some cutesy girl. Sadly, I talk about this in my book. She's no longer here, but I saw somebody I wanted to be like. And I was like, oh, she's cute. Wait, she's actually wearing some cool clothes. And wait, this two guys love her. You know that love triangle? Yeah. Enemies to lovers or best friends to lovers trope. We'll talk about that shortly. I saw somebody I wanted to be like, perhaps I would say for the first time. And then I saw my culture being presented in a way that was cool. And as an 18-year-old, you need that. You need to see the trending cool things. And then I happened to be in South Korea, in Seoul, and then kind of experiencing that in real life, in real time, watching a Korean drama that we're all like, this is so cool. That is what transformed me. And then that was slowly the beginning of
Mm.
unpacking my own culture and even discovering a culture that I was exposed for 18 years, but was like, kept at arm's length for the first time. And that hence began my transformation. And that is why K-dramas have transformed my life.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. That's fascinating. So, I mean, there is a key point in your book that really stood out to me, which is the connection between mental health and identity, right? You explained that how our mental health is impacted by whether we have a strong sense of self or we're actually struggling with our identity. Culture identity, of course, is a big part of, who we are. So, in particular, the kind of your recollection of your childhood that you've written in your book, you mentioned like you mentioned early, you said you were just so ashamed of Korean language. That's one thing, and then that would actually make you cringe, to think about it, right? You mentioned that you would rather be mistaken for Chinese, Japanese, just because it's less embarrassing, for doing so. But now
Yeah.
we're in such a different cultural moment where people talk about Korean dream, right? So people want to visit South Korea. At USF, students would like to study abroad in South Korea. People love Korean food and people like to learn Korean language. How has this drastic shift in how people perceive South Korea affect your own relationship with your mental health?
Ah, such a good question, by the way. Yeah, how much time do we have? Do we have like forever? No. That is just a very layered question, and I want to say it's a constant dynamic process, which is why I love that intersectionality. This is why that intersectionality is so important because it's an everyday process for me where I'm going, it's surreal. I'm in South Korea giving K-drama tours. And I share with people that I meet in real life, it has so benefited my mental health
Mhm.
to see the love of my home country and also the culture that I didn't experience growing up. So at the end of the day, your mental health, let me define real quick, is your emotional well-being, your social well-being, your psychological well-being. It is basically everyday things, every day, every moment. That's mental health, not mental illness, which is a different topic. But when I talk about mental health, I'm talking about how you're feeling with people, how you're feeling in your own skin. And so that's why identity and mental health have this direct correlation. When you don't feel good about yourself, your mental health is at risk, right? When you can't accept who you are, then that's also impacting your emotional well-being and also your social well-being. So this whole concept of it being like, by the way, tourism, when people are like, South Korea tourism is at an all-time high, I'm like, yeah, that's still surreal. And people go, yeah, why is it so surreal? I go, let me explain, because for many, many years, and it's not to make people feel bad, I was ridiculed for being Korean, and or they were like, ew, what's that smell? Kimchi. And I crack up now when people are like, oh my goodness, I made kimchi. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what? Right? I still say, you're making kimchi every day. I'm okay with it being surreal for me because that's a great feeling. And so that intersectionality of mental health and identity and resilience and mindfulness, which is my core framework, they all are evolving like this and ebbing and flowing every day. And what you watch matters. So I always tell people that is why you hear the term representation matters. Yes, it does. Because if when there's a term out there, you cannot be who you cannot see. So
Mhm.
I couldn't be Jeannie Chang or even imagine being Jeannie Bay actually growing up. I love my maiden name. Just saying, Jeannie Bay, I couldn't be that person because I didn't see that person anywhere except in the Korean dramas. And I always tell people, for me, it was Korean dramas, but for you, it could be films and
Mhm.
books and media. So it could be many things, but that core concept of being rooted in who you are directly ties, you're psychologically attached to who you are. Yes, which is why there's such, I would say, such a conflict at times when you're like, who am I? I'm a working mom. Oh, I'm a struggling student. I struggle with my culture. That is why they directly, and that's why I say a powerful intersectionality. So I want to say at the end of the day, it's a dynamic process. Every day, I'm learning about myself, and I want you guys to do the same. And this helps you understand mental health.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, I mean, it's obvious and clear that K-drama has made a tremendous impact on Korean American and Asian American cultural identity, improving representation and all that. But people of different ethnicities, non-Korean, non-Asian, they are all able to relate to Korean drama stories and tie it back to their own personal circumstances. So, in your line of work, you actively incorporate K-dramas into your therapy. Um, so can you give us some examples of how this works?
Sure. And I mean, even going to back to the book. So I'm assuming there's lots of students on here, but people of all ages. And I would say now my age 51, not because I'm bragging about the age, but the fact that, and I bring this up, I work with intergenerational mental health. So all ages, Gen Zs, millennials, Gen Xers, that's me. I would say I'm a proud Gen Xer. Then you have the baby boomers. So those are the four generations at this time in the workplace, which is my expertise. And we all relate to mental health and our identity very differently. And it depends on the season of life. So the fact that this book came about, and I always like to share, never underestimate social media because as a Gen Xer, I still remember when email came out, right? I remember when Facebook came out. We're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. My book came about because of the power of social media, where a publisher or editor just happened to be like, wait a second, so this whole thing that I'm seeing you on Instagram, you're talking about mental health and K-dramas. And it seems like it's making a global, like an impact, not just for Asians, but anybody non-Asian as well. And I'm like, yes. And that's how the book came about. It came about from you guys, the audience, and I also specifically want to impact or emphasize the non-Asian audience, and they are some of the most avid fans, the non-Asian audience, which is why I say surreal. When you have a white American from Southern Alabama talk to you about K-dramas, you're just staring at them going, you know more than me. I'm like, how did you know this? That is very powerful. And so even in the book, when people are like, who's your audience? I'm like, you know what? It's a global audience. Because at the end of the day, what you watch in a Korean drama, it is a universal theme of hope, joy, sorrow, trauma, tragedy, right? The depths of despair to the highest levels of happiness to even mental illness and mental health conditions like depression and anxiety. Those are all universal. So I like to say mental health is a universal language. We experience these mental health conditions differently, of course, because we're all unique, but the concepts are very rooted in what's, I guess, the concept of universality. So, for instance, somebody could be like watching a mother, but they're not a mother, but they relate to the person's emotions. And I have tons of people going, do you have something for grief? And I go, well, there's a lot of K-dramas out there that highlight grief, but that doesn't mean that'll resonate with you. In fact, whatever resonates with you is what resonates with you. So that became that global appeal when I say mental health is so universal. You can speak that language any country, anywhere, anytime, right? And that is why that globalness, the whole concept surrounding K-dramas and the community of K-dramas, which is a beautiful K-drama, especially mine, I'm partial to my community, they have brought the world closer together in a very difficult time. Obviously, I'm talking about the pandemic. So
Oh,
to answer your question, just to sum up, you are seeing messages and instances and family conflict and people that are like ourselves, regardless of culture.
I mean, you are extremely famous for, integrating K-drama with dialectical behavior therapy, so,
Yeah.
and of
Yeah.
course, I have to look it up, I have to study this. And then your new book, of course, is such a delight, right? So as a K-drama fan, I really found it's such a pleasure to look at it from a completely different perspective. Um, so in your book, you talk about self-care a lot, but you talk about self-care from various angles. How do we handle trauma? How do we manage depression, anxiety, understand neurodiversity, how do we build resilience both at work and in daily life. And so I'm really impressed with your ability to explain this really complicated mental concept in such a way that is accessible to everyone. And I'm also very appreciative of the K-drama watch list that you include for each topic. Um,
Yeah, there's more now. I wish I could do a second edition. No, you brought up one thing that I realized I didn't touch on, the therapeutic process.
mhm,
Therapy is hard. Let me tell you, I'm a therapist, right? So it is not easy to be in a session and you're breaking down trauma to grief to even the complexities of family, right? And even toxicities of workplace. The Korean dramas that I ended up, I mean, just how in general they play a role is stories. And I remember when I first brought it into a session, I tell people, I was like contemplating in my mind over a period of seconds, do I cancel the session? Do I literally, because I've done that before going, we need to stop. It's mid-session, this is terrible. It was that bad. And I went, oh my goodness, I have to pivot this whole entire family session. What can I do to salvage the session? Because it was so dramatic. I'm talking yelling. And then I went, I think I'm just going to bring this in. And I brought in a Korean drama. And I brought an example going, okay, here's a story. Instead of me bringing a clinical example of going, here's a case study, that's kind of boring. I went, here's a story that I think I need you to watch. And then you see like the daughter's eyes kind of go, what? And then even the mom going, what? My daughter has to study. You know, it's a joke. And it was an Asian family. And I was like, no, 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 this is your homework. You cannot come back in till you watch this. And I asked for one episode, but they watched the entire series. So it was Reply 1988. I always share that story. It just came to mind.
mhm,
Sometimes when people go, hey, Jeannie, what K-drama do you recommend? I'm like sitting there going, oh my God, there's so many K-dramas. But this K-drama just immediately came to mind. I just shared it. Didn't even think too much because I needed to pivot a very difficult, tumultuous session. But that did the trick. And that was the beginning of me going, am I on to something? But it wouldn't take, it took a couple years until I did it again in a college workshop. That's why college students are special to me. In a student workshop where it was also a very tense workshop. They were struggling with their parents and just the culture. And this was an Asian group. And I just went, did anybody see Boys Over Flowers? And so that just came up. Now, sometimes I don't recommend Boys Over Flowers. It hasn't dated well, but it showed a really good, I would say, angst with a mother-son role. And that's the one I brought up. And
mhm,
then when I saw eyes going, ding, 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 wait, I didn't see Boys Over Flowers, but that resonates. Then I went, I'm onto something. And so the therapy techniques, it made it easy for me. And I will share this. Yes, I have the training, but because I'm so passionately into K-dramas for my own self-care, it was easy for me to be like, yes, I'll talk till I'm blue. You need to
mhm,
do this. And of course, there's some people that look at me going, what? I still, to this day, I'll always, as global as K-dramas are, I'll meet a clinician or a researcher that looks at me like this. Oh, I thought
mhm,
you were smart. I mean, I still get that. I think I got it yesterday. I'm like, yes, I am smart. However, this is what I do, and let me explain. So when I explain it, there's still doubters and there's still people who go, that doesn't make any sense to me, even fellow clinicians. But it
mhm,
doesn't matter because I'll show the results, and that's why I wrote this book, but I show the results of my own well-being and how that applies to clients. So it's pretty powerful. And yes, if you need me to talk to those people, I will for you. But I actually wanted to pause. Can I show a clip?
yeah,
Is that possible? Okay, you know I have clips. Hello. I want to
yeah,
start with, there's so many to start with, but let's start with this one. Let me share my screen here. This is
mhm,
where I have to multitask. And I'm going to do my best to show this one. Do you guys see this?
yes.
Okay, okay, cool. And I see your question to somebody who posted this question. I will answer your question shortly. This is extraordinary attorney Woo. In fact, I know people can't get off mute, but anybody who want to write in the chat box, a little brief summary as I share about this K-drama, please do, just share. Who watched Attorney Woo? It's called Extraordinary Attorney Woo. It's currently on Netflix, but I, of course, love this drama. By the way, I don't watch every drama. When people are like, so do you live in dramas? I go, no, I don't have time to watch every drama. So I pick and choose. But what I love about this drama, yeah, and tell me your thoughts too as you're writing. You can totally be. I love when the Zoom chat goes crazy. So keep chatting. What I loved about her was neurodiverse, right? Clearly socially awkward. And the scene that I'm about to show, I think this is something you can emulate in real life. Now, don't take it literally as you self-disclose everything in real life. That's not what I'm saying, but you can show the confidence and I guess the firmness Attorney Wu showed in this first scene where it was first day on the job, I think. First day on the job as an attorney, she shares her opening statement. And I did ask lawyers, how realistic is this? I mean, not the self-disclosure, but giving an opening statement that goes, it's very realistic. You do give an opening statement about the case. So she gives her opening statement, but she says something very poignant about herself. I love it, guys. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. All right, let's show this clip.
모두 진술에 앞서 양해 말씀드립니다. 저는 자폐 스펙트럼 장애를 가지고 있어 여러분이 보시기에 말이 어눌하고 행동이 어색할 수 있습니다. 하지만 법을 사랑하고 피고인을 존중하는 마음만은 연애 변호사와 다르지 않습니다. 변호인으로서 피고인을 도와 사건의 진실을 밝힐 수 있도록 최선을 다하겠습니다.
Successfully clapping.
계속하세요.
I'm gonna pause it. Yeah, so guys, what you just saw was, that's why I said don't take it literally. I don't want you to self-disclose. You don't have to self-disclose anything. But she states what she believes is the obvious, and she says it in her own way. So it is very important that you define your narrative, your identity narrative, whatever that is. For instance, mine would be 51-year-old now, entrepreneur, CEO, global speaker. I say it proudly, but if you told me 15 years ago, I would be saying that. I'd be like, what? 15 years ago, it was like a mother and a therapist trying to juggle working momness, you know? So that's my narrative. My current narrative is very different today than it was. Her current narrative happens to me. She's going to be the best attorney as possible, but I am living with autism, and she said it ahead of people going, "What's wrong with you?" Right? And so I thought this was not just the identity narrative and her stating who she is in her own way, but also stigma. She addressed stigma and said it. So when you actually break that stigma by stating what people are questioning or those biases and assumptions and kind of doing away with that, first of all, I'm not asking you to do it to educate someone else. That's what people think it is. No, that's the end result. But you are sharing who you are for yourself. Meaning, you know what? I want people to know this about me. I'm ready to share it. Or you know what? I'm confident. I love that I'm doing this. I'm going to share it. The whole aspect of your mental health and identity and that narrative is not for someone else. It is to benefit you. So that was to benefit her.
That was such a powerful moment. And I saw that on the chat, lots of people love this show. And I have to say that this is also one of my personal favorites. And so this really, as a person who studies media, film, I feel K-drama has really come such a long way in the last 10 years. I feel like it was just not too long ago, that K-drama was mostly seen as a kind of like niche form of entertainment. Usually when we think about the K-drama back then, we thought about romance, we thought about melodrama, right? But now when you talk about K-drama, you know that they cover almost just about every genre. It's romance, of course, and there's period drama, there's science fiction, supernatural, there's a thriller, there's a crime, there's police, procedural, there's even reality shows that I haven't watched too much of that. But what's most interesting about these shows is that as they broaden the content landscape, they also blend in more and more social commentary, even tackling those some really pretty difficult, uncomfortable topics. And in this case, in the attorney extraordinary attorney Wu's case, they were able to bring in this kind of marginal voice into mainstream television. So it's fantastic. And then one thing, in addition to the identity narrative there you were talking about, I think one thing that also stood out to me with this drama is that the kind of team dynamic, the team dynamic in office. Um, it is probably still very optimistic and fantastical, but it's so heartwarming to see that how the boss who used to be quite skeptical on getting to know her the first day, knowing that, oh, you're autistic, right? And then the coworker thinking about, quite hostile towards her because she has this kind of photographic memory, and they thought that this is so not fair. She has this advantage, but eventually she was given a chance to succeed every single time. And most moving of all is that she was able to work with a team and become part of a team rather than being a single out, being isolated as someone who is very different from.
I love that you said that. I'm gonna hop on board with that. First of all, thank you for all your comments. I love it. When you see a positive portrayal, by the way, K-dramas also show you a negative and toxic portrayal, so they show you everything.
Mhm.
Positive portrayal of the workplace that Attorney Wu happened to be in. When people say to me, that's so not realistic, I'm like, yes, it is, actually. Meaning it's how you want to change and view things. Yes, the workplace can be toxic. Many can be very stressful. In fact, every day they should be stressful because it's a workplace. However, when you see a positive portrayal, you hope that you watch it aspiring to be like that, right? There's also aspirational aspects of Korean dramas going, we can be this kind of workplace. And that's why I also show these positive portrayals for people to aspire for something. If you just had that attitude of going, this is not ever realistic, never going to happen, I'm going to tell you now, that is not good for your mental health. Yeah, I mean, I can't have you like that. If you came to see me pretty direct, I'd be like, no. So that's not acceptable. You cannot live that way. That may be true right now in your life, but what can you do to change your workplace or your job or your attitude in life to be healthier and happier? So that to me, when the leader changed, by the way, it's an awesome portrayal of him going, yeah, I don't like you, you're weird. And even a coworker is like, I fought a lot of that because she was getting a lot of attention, good attention. You saw him change. That's the other aspect of Korean dramas that I want to bring up that's very important. Real life, nobody's black and white. We want them to be. And that's why Korean dramas resonate so well. They're gray, very gray, blue gray,
Yeah.
or pink gray. And so there's a multidimensional factor to these people that I believe are real life. Even though there's some people I think that we would see as evil, there's something if I wouldn't be doing my job if I said, yeah, that's who they are and just kind of leaving it at that. No, there's a meaning behind why they do what they do. And we see that in a Korean drama because we see behind the scenes, right? We see a mom yelling at a kid and you're like, oh, that mom is so harsh, right? I kind of cringe when I see a lot of those, but then you see the next scene where the parent is bawling because they feel like they're not a good parent. And there is that other dimension of going, that's why they're so harsh, right? So there's just many things out there. So I just had to say that's only one clip you're going to see. And then I see a question here. Can I answer that way? There's a question here I see.
Absolutely.
Why do you think the writers and producers of Korean dramas portray topics like family complexity, societal issues, unlike what we see in many Western dramas? So I want to be clear, being a Korean American, that I'm not anti-Western dramas. It may seem like I am, but I'm not. I just don't have time to watch them anymore. And I prioritize the dramas I watch. But Korean dramas focus on people. They focus on the characters. They're imaginary characters. We make very clear they're fictional characters, right? And fictional scenarios even. But when you focus on the person's growth and their angst and their whole character arc and how they started this way, but then changed this way, or seeing somebody who was meek and mild and then became the superstar person, people relate to people. So at the end of the day, that's why they resonate. Western dramas, I believe, focus more on the plot. And that's, again, I'm not an expert on saying, let me break down Western versus Eastern. It's just that that's what I see. And that's why Korean dramas at the height of the pandemic, maybe early on, actually early on in the pandemic, sorry, when people were at the height of their stress, they wanted something different. And it just happened to be in the form of Korean dramas. And it just happened to be, it hit them because Korean dramas, again, focus on the person. And there's a very emotional layer to that person and the family and the complexities that it really resonated for those of us who were just so stressed out in a world of like, what happened? In a world of chaos. And that's why they went global. And then I know we're going to talk about Squid Game, but then Squid Game kind of catapulted that. I always share, I don't recommend Squid Game necessarily for your mental health. I don't, but it was entertaining and well done. And you could see why it resonated globally. It had that edge to it, right? But it also had characters of layers of their own trauma and angst and also happiness and joy. So I study Squid Game for the sake of my work, and I'll even show a clip from it where I think it really resonates the depth of the stress that someone felt that they had to enter the deadly games because they were ashamed of their own circumstances. So we could talk about that shortly, but did you have a
Yeah.
question, Mike? So of course I kind of went on a tangent, but I had to answer that
No,
person's.
I really would like to talk about Squid Game. So I feel like because you know, that's the one show people, I feel like everybody at least heard about it, you know, if not have
Yeah.
already seen it, both
So you
seasons.
should know Squid Game. If
Yeah.
you don't know Korean dramas, you'll know Squid
You
Game.
you know Squid Game, you know the costume and all and all that. Yeah. So I just want to mention, just from a media study point of view, right? This is such a groundbreaking show. You know, before it came out in 2021, it was so Korean drama, there's a small dedicated following, right? But ever since the show, things completely changed because it was a global sensation, right? It was the first show that won many Emmy Awards. And then so it just also, you know, just make the point that non-English series can also top the global charts, streaming charts, right? So
It's
that
the #1 show of all time on Netflix.
on Netflix as of
So,
the end of
to this
21.
day.
Yeah, 2021.
Yeah, I mean, and I had to bring that up in my TEDx talk and go wide with that because
Mhm.
even that concept of a Korean language television show
Yeah.
being the #1 show on most watched show on Netflix of all time is like, what?
Yeah.
But I always say this, and I'll even say this in my workshops. Guys, Squid Game made my job easier because now when I say, by the way, I'm going to bring in a K-drama clip to corporate America, corporate Korea, corporate global, and I'm talking executives or financial people, engineers. The engineers are the hardest people, by the way, because they're like, can that happen in real life? I'll be like, no, but the people are real life, right? So,
Mhm.
but I'll always say, thanks to Squid Game, I can say, I'm going to bring a Korean drama clip to this financial workshop. And then people will look at me going, yeah, so you mean, I go, you know, something like Squid Game? And they're like, oh, gotcha. But I love that because now the ding, ding, ding of the light bulb goes, oh, I think I know what Jeannie's talking about. Where even 5 years ago, they were like, what do you mean you're going to bring a Korean drama? What is that? So it's been beneficial for my work, right? And can I show the Squid Game clip?
Yeah, show it.
Okay.
And because it's not a feel good drama, you know.
Okay, see, look at all these clips, guys. Oh, you can't see it. Oh, sorry. Let me go back. Oh, God, sorry. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Let me see here. And let me preface it first.
Mhm.
The concept is in my book, Filial Piety. It is a Confucian concept. However, in my work, because I don't, now I see, I want to say, I'm trying to think of my clientele. Asians, but I don't talk to just Asians because in corporate and workplaces, there's a diverse audience. The concept of filial piety, which is that deep sense of obligation and servitude to your family, to your parents, to pleasing them, to honoring them. It's a core Asian concept. However, in my work, especially through Korean dramas, it resonates across all races, ethnicities, and communities. Because they're like, yeah, I feel the stress. I'm the first person to go to college, for instance. I hear that. Or no, I feel like everything's on me to take care of my family. And then when I feel like I disappoint them, I feel like I've messed up. That's filial piety, and it resonates everywhere. In this clip I'm about to show, very, very, very short, so I need you to watch it carefully. it shows this concept of the character that, if you haven't seen Squid Game, I won't spoil it, but makes some deadly choices that led to his demise, I want to say, because of filial piety. So let's play that. I have to share it first. That would be good. Let me know if you see this.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you for the yes. All right, here we go.
형우야, 여기서 뭐하냐? 너 빚 때문에 그래? 야, 쌍문동의 자랑, 쌍문동의 낙후기른 천재. 서울대 경영학과 수석 입학 조상우가 뭐가 걱정이야? 다시 벌면 되지. 엄마한테 가서 다 말씀드리고 새로 시작해.
Thoughts on that as you're watching? Who saw Squid Game? It's a very short clip, pretty subtle, but I thought it was pretty profound. Now, his friend said it for him. His friend said, just tell your mom. You guys know if you watch it, he doesn't tell his mom. Yeah. He also, right there, is a little tortured looking at his mom, right? Watching her from beyond. And his friend's like, why don't you just tell her? His friend actually exacerbated a little about his thinking. You know what he said? He goes, you are the pride and joy of this neighborhood, right? You can do no wrong. But what that did, unbeknownst to his friend, he was trying to make it, he was trying to sympathize and empathize. However, he kind of pushed his friend into a little bit more like, yeah, you just brought up the pressure. I am known to be this great business person, went to the top school. Everyone expects this of me. So I'm going to disappoint them when I went into debt, when I made a mistake and go into debt. So then he goes obviously into Squid Game, and then the rest is history if you saw it. But I always share that that's a decision that he chose to make because of this pressure and obviously love of his mom. None of this is bad. By the way, everything I share, these are stressors and part of life, but you'll never hear me say that's bad. This is part of the stressors of life that you experience. What I want you to do is, how do we manage that? Like, how do you not make a decision going, like, not like you're going to go into real life Squid Game. So far, they don't really exist, but we see examples of situations that are like a Squid Game where you decide, you know what, I'm disappointing my parents. I feel like a loser, so I'm going to do this. And then you make a choice that isn't wise or necessarily good for your own well-being, and that it impacts you. And then that's where you see people go down a certain path that's very difficult. So I hope that resonates. So Squid Game has there's many other lessons there, but that's one that I want to share. The concept of filial piety is a very universal theme.
It really is. I mean, you mentioned the concept of filial piety and voice over flowers as well. You know, that's usually not people would typically think about when they first watch voice over flowers, but it is.
My mom, that mom is not my favorite, right? But again, that's just what she desired, right? And when people go, oh, it sounds like you're defending the parent, you know, I go, I'm not defending the parent. I just need you to see the other side of things that a Korean drama shows you that you may not see in real life. You're not going to see your parent. You're going to see your parents say this stuff to you and give you the pressure of, you need to be a doctor, lawyer, attorney, you know, save the world, change the world. And then you're hearing that and you're feeling like, oh my goodness, I can't do this. But you may not see that angst that your mother might have felt decades earlier, or or your father felt decades earlier of their own experiences. And that's kind of my job, right? And that's what Korean dramas do well. So that's why I use these clips to go, let's look at this sad scene. I do like make people cry. I love making people cry. That's what we do. We cry. That's another thing of a Korean drama. Let me just say, they help you express emotions.
Yeah.
You otherwise don't express or can't express in real life. Let's be real. It's not like you can cry when you have a workplace situation. You want to cry, and maybe you're about to cry, but you hold that in for professional reasons. But then you see a drama of the same workplace situation, or even a positive workplace situation, and you can cry. So those are the good cries. Korean dramas, you can cry, the very good cries that I say we need in our lives, regardless of gender, I don't care, background, whatever. crying can be very therapeutic and cathartic, right? And that's why I feel so good to watch them. And that's why Korean dramas can help you through those emotions.
So the two clips we saw, one from The Extraordinary Attorney Woo, and then one from Squid Game. So both those shows are massive hits, at least in the United States. And I know also I heard that Extraordinary Attorney Woo was also extremely popular.
Yes.
One of the most popular shows in 2022 in Korea as well, which is not always the case. You know, a lot of times what is popular in Korea is not does not rouse any interest in the United States and vice versa, right? So
Yeah.
do you want to talk a little bit about this kind of popularity and how
Yeah.
can people think about, you know, is Squid Game equally popular in Korea? And
Mm.
what
It's fascinating. So doing my work also, because I consider myself a clinician, which is also a researcher, where I just ask questions, even if someone's doing my hair in Korea, I'm like, so what are you watching and why, right? And I want to gauge the local audience. At the end of the day, Netflix has said this, and I heard it straight from a source who produces Netflix dramas, that Netflix is made for the Korean, sorry, not Netflix, Korean dramas are made for the Korean audience. So it has to resonate in Korea.
Mhm.
The same things won't resonate in Korea that it does in the US, but I'm seeing that gap less and less, meaning I'm seeing the same dramas resonate in Korea that they are globally, not just US, that's where I'm from. So I should say globally to be inclusive. No, globally, they are resonating. But Koreans will tell you, oh my goodness, the fact that I still do a Korean drama tour and about to do a K-pop tour, this is literally what I get every day from a local Korean going, so what tour is this? Like, you're bringing foreigners. They love foreigners. Koreans love foreigners. And so they see my tour guests and they're so excited seeing them in hanboks. But then they go, so you're what? It's a Korean drama tour, you know? And I always get that look from like locals, nationals, Korean nationals going, well, like, why are you taking him to this place? It's like so remote. Why would you want to go here? I still get that question because to them it's part of their everyday life. They don't quite see the novelty. And the novelty is still there for many people globally, but now it's becoming part of their life. So they might start becoming like the Korean nationals. They just didn't quite understand the appeal, not because Korean dramas didn't appeal to them. I finally figured that out. I thought, do they not like Korean dramas? No. Do you know how much part of life people rush home because they're watching live television, a K-drama on live television? They tell me they change their they try to make sure they're home by 9:40 to watch like When Life Gives You Tangerines or whenever the last K-drama is. I'm like, really? They go, yeah, it is a huge part of our lives. They just they're just, I want to say the whole novelty and also the disbelief that other people outside of their country would be interested. So I still get that even today after doing many K-drama tours, when locals are like, you're doing a K, like you flew in from Australia to come to Korea. It's kind of like how I feel going, you know what? And that's okay. I just realized that's where they were at. They think it's cool, trust me, but they still are in disbelief of the global attention. However, there's still a nationalistic view of like, of course you should be interested in our country. I crack up every time. Every time you do the little, yeah, they love Korea. They're like, duh. I love seeing that too, because there's that nationalism that I think is very important to see. And that's why we see that in the Korean dramas. So I'll pause there because I'm sure there's more questions you have. Can I answer this one person's question? Sorry, I saw this early on. He said, or she said, I'm hoping you can share your thoughts on the popularity and some context of the childhood connection tropes. Let's talk tropes.
Oh, Trump.
I say this in my book. We like the tropes.
Yeah.
You say you don't like them, but then everybody goes wild when they're like, what just happened? This did not go according to plan. So tropes are necessary. First of all, they're necessary in storytelling, but the familiarity, the comfort, the predictability is actually a trauma prevention tool. In trauma, and my lens is from a trauma-informed perspective, there's some sort of trauma in our lives. Trauma is defined by you. Now, there's some traumas that are obvious, like natural disasters. But when someone says something like, oh my gosh, that was traumatic to you. Someone said that to me even recently. I went, Yeah, it was. And do you want me to go off on it? No, I didn't say that. I was very nice. But I went, yeah, this happened to me and this was traumatic to me. So I'm validating it. We all have that. So don't let anybody minimize your trauma. That's part of my work to help you through that. But the whole point is yeah, so the childhood tropes and the connection tropes and the best friends and lovers and what are love triangles, you expect to see it, whether you know it or not. And then I just remind you going, hello, K-dramas tend to end happily. Let's be real about, let me do the percentage, maybe 90%, they end happily. They may not end in a wedding or some sort of dramatic affair that you want, but they end on a happy note. We expect that. So when it kind of diverts from that, we go a little crazy. We're like, I can't watch that show again. It was K-trauma. I crack up when I hear the K-trauma, which is, I laugh and I understand that. And I go, yeah, you're right, because it diverted from the happy ending trope. So those tropes help us feel comforted. We go, oh, this is what it is. Oh, they're going to kiss by episode 8 or hold hands by episode 8. Maybe it's like episode 16 they kiss. I'm laughing, but there is a sensible predictability, and like, I guess in some sense we want that. We crave it. A trauma prevention tool is having a simple schedule that you can adhere to. I'm just giving you a tip there. Stick to your schedule. You want to drop everything, but my recommendation is always, you're going to drop everything for a bit. Yeah, it's going to be tough, but try your best to get onto a schedule, even if you're dropping things within your schedule. Same thing with seeing those tropes. We like it and we watch it and we crave it. And when it kind of goes off the I'm cracking up because I know this person, the white truck. Oh yeah, the white truck scenario. By the way, it's kind of real because there's white trucks all over Korea. And I have to tell my tour group, watch the white truck. So those tropes are all based on real life and storytelling techniques that are so wonderfully predictable in a K-drama that we need. Yeah. Oh, 2521. Did you know that you read my mind? 2521, Mr. Sunshine. K-trauma for folks because it didn't end in the way that we expected. It kind of gave a spoiler, but then I say that's okay. It kind of went away from that, but you just proved my point. Oh, the red sleeve. Yeah. When you see something and you're like, this went off the rails, I go, can I then bring up my argument that you like the trope, right? Even though people are like, oh, I hate predictability, and I just crack up because actually that's why we love K-dramas, right?
Yeah. So there's a related criticism for K-drama, but also for a lot of the kind of entertainment of forms, is that people would say that, oh, it's just about escape, right? It's a form of escapism. What is escape important? Do we need escape? And is it okay to use K-drama as a form of escape?
Yes, like that's the short answer. Yes, you need some form of escapism. How do you decompress? Like, how do you like rest? Even in society, more so in the Asian society, but just workplace society, rest has become this kind of this dirty word of like, you watch K-dramas? And guess what I said recently? It wasn't a corporate conversation. I went, oh, so then do you watch football? Right? Do you watch tennis? And I watch tennis as well. I'm bringing those up where people love to also watch sports to decompress. That's their way of having some downtime. If you don't have some sort of escapism, then you're constantly going to be stressed. So please find your version of escapism. For us here, it's K-dramas. But then here goes but then moderate how much you watch at a given moment, or generally speaking. I am not endorsing you binging every day and then go to work completely like a zombie. Like, oh my gosh, I can't function, Jeannie. I was supposed to do this and I didn't, and I dropped the ball. Then you'll hear me kind of getting a scolding way going, okay, but that is actually far from benefiting your mental health. Then you're actually exacerbating your stress because you did a little bit too much. So some days you can do too much, and then you kind of balance it on days you don't watch at all. Very important to, yes, have that escapism, but do not escape your life. You watch for a little bit to escape the stressors, but then you come back to your life. And my hope is that you live your best life, or try to live your best life through a K-drama or via K-drama experience, and you take it with you. So for instance, you watch, I'm going to show this shortly, how grief unfolds, or how filial piety unfolds even in a conversation with a parent and you have this confrontation and you're like, oh my gosh, this was so stressful. But then you watch this Korean drama and you feel validated. And then you're like, let me go back to my family life. It's a little bit difficult, but I just got equipped with some techniques of how to confront a family member, for instance, that has helped me. So I do not want you to escape your life. I want you to have some form of escapism to live the life you're meant to live. And that's super important to understand. Like parents, do you know some parents will DM me on social media going, my daughter says that you said it's okay to binge. And I went, okay, having 4 kids myself, I go, no, I never said that. And that's why I completely say a dose. A dose in your eyes could be, Jeannie, is it 16 episodes? I would say no, more like 1 to 2 a day, but definitely some days binge. But then please go back to your life and then make up for that time, right? 16 hours or 16 plus hours. So, oh my goodness, time is running out. Did you have another question before I show another clip? Because you know I love those clips.
I wonder if you can talk a little bit more about grief
All
because
right, let me pause it. Go ahead.
right. So I feel like that's the most difficult emotion to process and to navigate.
Mhm.
But can you talk a little bit about how K-drama can help navigate this difficult emotion?
Yeah, I'm sorry, because I played the
Mhm.
sound. What
Yeah.
difficult emotion you were
The
talking about?
emotion of grief, how to manage
Yeah,
via K-drama.
grief is the longest chapter in my book. And then I outlined trauma, but I focused a lot on grief because I just happened to write it right after the pandemic or kind of at the tail end of the pandemic, where people were experiencing grief very openly to just the loss of loved ones, but loss of safety in a world they used to know, loss of work safety, maybe workplace safety. They used to go into work. Now it's hybrid. Oh my goodness, I don't know how to deal with that. There was a lot of grief. Grief is a loss of anything or anything that kind of uproots you from something that you used to have, from a job to a relationship to a season of life to marriage, divorce. That all encompasses grief. So K-dramas show grief very well. Korean culture has a lot of that grief in their history. This is not a history lesson, but just knowing the whole backstory of Korean culture and the South Korea and North Korea in itself, very, very overwhelmed with grief. And that is why you see it so well displayed in a Korean drama. And the clip that I tend to show is Hometown Cha-Cha-Cha. Who's watched that? Tell me if you've seen that. It's because this one scene alone is what I want you to do, or what I believe you can do on both ends of the spectrum of grief, whether you're struggling with grief and navigating it, that's one hand, or you are the person providing a person grieving support. This one scene does it so well. And I talk about it a lot. By the way, there's many scenes. When I show the clip, it's just because I'm partial to these scenes. But let me go back to this. Sorry, because I don't want to play it. And I'm going to show you the scene in Hometown Cha-Cha-Cha. I want you to watch both characters. And I think they really do a good job addressing the grief at hand.
홍반장은 또 힘들었을 거 아니야.
Oh,
힘든 거
can you
물러왔을
share
거
your
아니야.
screen?
Oh, so sorry.
심장이 멈춰.
You're hearing the audio and realizing I didn't share my screen. Thank you. That would be helpful. Hold on a second. Let me do that. I love how it's silent. I'm like, what are people watching this? Okay, here we go. Thank you. Way. Here we go. All right. Tell me if you can see this.
We're good.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
울어도 돼, 홍반장. 홍반장은 또 힘들었을 거 아니야. 힘든 거 꾹꾹 눌러왔을 거 아니야. 심장에 모래주머니 매달고 살았을 거야. 나한테는 슬프다고 해도 돼. 나한테는 아프다고 해도 돼, 홍반장. 울어도 돼. 울어도 돼.
So obviously here, they have a close relationship as partners, right? so she can be physically close like that. That may be not a scenario that you may be able to do that hugging, but what she did well, the supporter gave him the space. She didn't give a solution. Many times with grief, we're like, okay, so here's what you do. You know, maybe you're dealing with a pet grief. Why don't you get another dog or cat? I hear that. People mean well. They do. Just know that people mean well. But at the end of the day, when someone's grieving, they just want to be validated in their grief or validated that they're feeling such sorrow that it's okay to feel that. And that's what she did. And that's why, if you notice in that one little section, he cried harder. He just went, I got to let my dam burst. That is very important. And so I'm going to say a trade secret to therapy. This is the trade secret. There you go. Share all the secrets. It is not solutions, not being the expert in the room. It is validating someone's emotional experiences. I would say perspectives, their whole schema of life. You're validating that person. That is the trade secret to therapy. There are many times people are like, Jeannie, you're the best. You just totally helped me. And I'm like, actually, no, not really. No, I'm thinking, yes, I did. I helped you process what you're experiencing because I just allowed you that space to share it. So guys, when the reason why grief is so hard, it is uncomfortable to see somebody, right? And you know, when you're grieving, you're like, oh gosh, the minute I told them this is what happened to me, they're like, oh, you lost your mom, right? It's hard because it's such the depth of emotion. But then maybe you just literally say, well, thank you for sharing. That's what's happening with you. That must have been so hard, or that must be so hard. That's all they need. And then you might see tears, and then it's up to you how you handle that. But wow, validation, guys, it's so real. It is so powerful. And that is another aspect of the Korean dramas. You are validating, watching, going, oh my goodness, I'm just going to cry. I don't know why I'm crying. Do you know many people have told me they didn't know they were grieving until they saw a K-drama? By the way, it didn't have to be an emotional experience. They saw a K-drama that I thought is super happy, but then they saw an instance of something, realizing, Jeannie, I think I'm grieving. I didn't realize that I missed my previous marriage or whatever that is, right? And I go, let's break that down. And so grief is a big, big experience of today. Yeah. So I don't know if you teared up. I actually have gotten better seeing that clip, not tearing up when I do the workshop, but you know, it's just emotionally gripping, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that episode, love the show. And our audience also have similar things to say. So when you were growing, just switch gear a little bit. So when you were growing up, I remember you said that not many people even know South Korea was the country. And now it's a completely different climate. You know, we have K-drama, we have K beauty, we have K-pop, and those are everyday vocabulary, especially for the younger generation. And K-entertainment itself has grown
Mhm.
into a multi-billion-dollar business. It's an ecosystem of its own, right? So, and K-drama is everywhere available to watch on all the major streaming platforms. And so it is really it's unprecedented, you know, exciting time for K content. But in your book, and as you also mentioned in other occasions, you said that, you know, this popularity is a double-edged sword. And I think this also is related to, it might be related to one of the comment that came up in the chat, where how Western viewers will shape this kind of perception of Korea based
Yeah.
solely on what they see on the screen.
Yes, great question. So you're asking about the double-edged sword. It is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm gonna still spin it that I think it's so wonderful to see the interest in an Asian culture. And actually, because of the love of Korean dramas, it's opened people to see dramas, J dramas, Chinese dramas, Japanese dramas, Thai dramas, all that. People are going, let me explore it. To me, at the end of the day, that is still beneficial, exposing yourself to diverse experiences. But the double-edged sword is when people see a portrayal and that's what they think it is, right? When, you know, perhaps I hear from Korean Americans that are like, by the way, Korean food is much more than Korean barbecue. It's a joke, but we have to be very cautious about what we see and understanding this is a drama at the end of the day. So some things are dramatized. I think I always say it is realistic, the people's experiences and their emotional experiences, but the scenarios are very much dramatized, right? And so we have to be cautious that we're not, in some sense, thinking that we're over knowledged of Korea. Do you know there's some people who actually tell me, no, this is Jeannie, this is how Korean culture is. I'm like, actually, I mean, that's interesting. You're telling me that, but that might be one portrayal you see. So very important to understand that as much as you love Korean dramas, I need you to be realistic. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because these days we're seeing some avid fans that could go a little overboard, thinking this is the way the star should be, or I am a huge fan of this K-pop artist, so I feel like I can infringe on people's life. This is very important. This is not benefiting anybody's mental health in real life. So that double-edged sword has brought that about. As global as Korean dramas are, and it's great to have that love for them, everything must be moderated and balanced. And so that's why I bring that up, going, it's multi-layered, right? And so it's just be cautious of that. And so that's why I bring that up. And it's also me doing my job as a therapist to give you that realistic portrayal. I may use them in my work in mental health, but I'm always cautious about the other flip side. Very important to look at that, to be realistic about that.
Mhm.
And on that note, someone asked me, what do you think of the emphasis on K-dramas romantic relationships? Do you think this could make it more difficult for people to engage in their own relationships, or just experience to break up, or how realistic is it? Of course, it's hard. If you see a romantic relationship in a Korean drama, of course you're like, I don't have that. I want that. I validate that. However, I don't want you to stay there. Like, if you want to aspire to have a relationship like that, then you try to have a relationship like that. I don't want you to go, by the way, you don't look like Cha Won-woo, so it X you off my list. No, that's not what I want. I want you to be able to be like, but Cha Won-woo's character in True Beauty was this way. He was kind and, giving and generous. Those are the real life characteristics you can search for in a spouse. And vice versa. If you see this beautiful woman like Son Ye-jin in Crash Landing, for instance, you're like, oh, I want a smart, strong CEO woman like that. Yeah, those are all realistic. So I caution when people go, K-dramas are very unrealistic. And I go, the scenarios, yeah, they are. And that's why they make them fun. And otherwise, you wouldn't want to watch them, because we love these outlandish situations. However, can you look at the character traits? That's what I tend to ask. I go, look at the character traits. Look at how they respond to something. Look at how when they're crying about something, or look at their own traumas and then their own successes. That's realistic. And I want you to have them in your life. So that is, and I will advocate for that always. And again, there are people out there who completely say they're not realistic, but I'll fight that, going, depends on your perspective. You need to reframe perspectives. Otherwise, you will miss the good things in life. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And time is really flying by, so I will give you one more question.
Okay.
So just to sum this up, right, in your opinion, what sets K-drama apart from, let's say, American shows or international series? So basically, what makes K-drama so unique?
Yeah, and I kind of touched on that with the focusing on the character development, but guess what? I asked that question to my audience. Audience here, why do you see K-dramas having such a global appeal? Go ahead and answer that as I cue up the last clip, because it actually boils down to the audience watching it. I have my own assessment. I just shared. I gave you a big hint, people, right? What you're seeing that a person experiences in the show that's fictional, you're resonating with their emotional experiences, their social interactions, and their psychological well-being, mental health, how they're processing something that happened. But I know everyone's silent now. Yeah, I would love you to answer, why do K-dramas hit you in such a way? Ooh, slice of life. Someone brought that up. Slice of life. Yeah. You see a lot of those slice of life, childhood, high school. In that moment, you're a working parent or you're going through you're a young adult exploring the world. Those are very resonant. Those are very realistic. Thank you for bringing that up. Aesthetics. So someone brought up aesthetics. That is so true. I'm going to be realistic. K-dramas have some good looking people. And there's a reason for that. First of all, Kate, we can go into that in a whole nother topic. Koreans have a very high standard. I want to say when people go, it's so unrealistic. I look at it as it can be unrealistic, but they also have very high standards because they're perfectionists. It's what they believe. So they put it into a drama. Aesthetics are very important for us. You want to see that. However, caution that we know that's not realistic to always look that perfect, right? They're trying to show a CEO dressed to the nines, right? Wearing Chanel, or sometimes I see the brand going, that is a designer brand, right? But it's pleasant to the eye, which is pleasant for your mental health. And so that's important. I'm seeing people saying combination of Eastern and Western culture brings back romantic perspective. They have stayed with deep human emotions, whereas a lot of US dramas is now quite cynical. I like that. And I think that's true. I would love us to have a less cynical approach to life. Don't get me wrong. People are like, you're so positive. I go, that's because I work at it. I'm cynical too. Like I'm sitting there going, yeah, really? I have to work hard to practice what I teach to reframe a cynical perspective because that doesn't help you emotionally. It puts you in a bad place, actually. So another reason why K-dramas have that happy feel, even when there's angst, there's still an overarching, it's going to end happily thanks to the tropes that we say we don't like. I need you to look at that and apply it in your own life. So at the end of the day, I'm asking you to watch a Korean drama for your own escapism, but I want that escapism to apply. So make some changes in your life. That's my call to action. Oh, and thank you for bringing this. They allow men to cry and show up positive vulnerability. Yes. Yes, you're right. Korean dramas show the passion of the culture of men crying, which is very heartwarming to see. Actually, I think I tend to cry more with the men when the men cry. Like I'm like, oh my goodness, it's like. So I'm gonna end because I think we have a couple minutes. Yes, and the character development is very unique. So let me do here. I'm gonna pause it here to show you one of my favorite clips of all time from a favorite K-drama of all time. And yes, I will share my screen. Don't worry. My Mister. My Mister is not an easy watch by no means. It's a little melancholy. It's kind of, people are watching going, this is kind of heavy. Yes, it is. However, I based my Mister on transformation. Characters in that show fully transform themselves to be the best of who they can be. You see their change from episode 1 to episode 16 in such a way, it's like a rainbow actually, that you're like, oh my goodness, that's transformation. And that K-drama does it so well. So I'm going to share this clip and I hope you take this away. It's a workplace clip, but I want you to see all the layers of the people and the emotions and then the main character and what he shows. Can you see this? Okay. Let's end there. I end on that note to show a positive, beautiful, poignant moment of someone getting promoted and everyone happy for that person. Now you have to see the show to understand what got them to that point, but that's very transforming. So I hope you experience that in your own life, that the support that this person received, and yes, it is very sad about what happened to this person in real life, and I don't ignore that, but I also want to carry on the memory of his acting by showing this clip in every workshop that I do, because he portrays a character so well, showing kindness, and then so kindness came back to him when he got promoted, and everyone is happy for him. So I hope you experience that in real life. Wang.
Thank you. Thank you. That's truly, truly amazing. And I just want to remind everybody that Jeannie's book is available for you to access if you are affiliated with USF, whether you're a faculty member, staff member, or if you're a student, you can always go out to check out more of her writing. And thank you, Jeannie, for such a delightful conversation. It truly is an honor. And we all walk away with lots of things to think about. And of course, we also have more K-drama titles to add to our watch list as well. So thank you again. Thank you again for sharing your time and expertise with us.